Hi everyone, it's Celeste. I am going to be working today on fixing a little bit of this area of the yard. This raised planter was originally my propagation station. So you can see tons of plants, and it's really crazy level overgrown and looks pretty yucky when you come in. But when I originally started with succulents, this is where I used to just put cuttings, and then as they rooted, got bigger, then I would move them to other parts of the yard. This was kind of like the beginning bed for pretty much everything that's in my garden. But over the years, it's become pretty gross, and I've just pretty much ignored it, mainly because I needed to put in more soil and change it. So I thought I would take you along on the journey today as I redo this raised bed. I'm gonna actually make it more of like a design, and I'll probably put some aeoniums in here because it tends to be really filtered light, pretty shady, and so it's a good place for aeoniums to be. You can see I've got some of them already in here, but they're not looking the cutest. So I'm gonna go ahead and redo this. Down below you can see some of these planter boxes that I had. That's also what I would use to basically propagate some of the aeoniums and some of the other different plants I had. Over time though, as the garden got bigger, I really just, I don't have to do that anymore because there's so many plants everywhere. It's pretty easy to propagate, and so I really abandoned this. So I'm okay at this point now turning this into a design. Here's another one of the garden beds. I just recently put a video out that was talking about how you can just put soil right on top of decomposed granite. And at the other end of the side part of my yard, I had actually just done a video about building a cacti garden. So over here, it's more shady, as you can see. And so this is where I actually put in some aeoniums. It's more like an aeonium garden. There's a mission to Mars in the back. So if you remember from the other video that I showed you with the cacti garden, this is a mission to Mars. This has been in here maybe, I want to say 3 months or 4 months. So you can see it's starting to get pretty big, and it really likes it in this little area. I think it probably wants more sunlight than it's getting, but it does get sun, so it's not too bad. It's just not growing as aggressively as it normally would. So here's some of the different types of aeoniums that I've got. They're pretty cool. I need to fix the top dressing on that. This one's really cool. Tabiflorum, I think is what it's called, but it basically just flattens out against the ground, which is really neat. So you can see this is some of my original collection. I think these were the ones that I got from Ireland, actually. And so you can see some of the different kinds that I've got. And there's an echeveria that's growing back there. Super happy. And some of these are starting to do what's called cupping. So aeoniums are summer dormant. It's heating up in my area. I'm zone 9B. So what you're starting to see is, you can see it right here. This one's doing it. So when they start to close up, right, that's called cupping. So you can see a couple of these guys are starting to do that, versus like these guys that are not cupping yet, although they're doing it a little bit right there. So you can tell where it's hotter, right, where they're getting more sunlight. That's where they're starting to do that cupping. But here's some of the aeoniums. So again, this is just, I put soil down on the ground right over the top of the decomposed granite. You can see the succulents don't care. They don't need a lot of soil. They're totally fine being inside of, just a very little amount of soil and growing. It's not an issue for them. So this is one of the nice things, even if you've got an area of your yard, you don't have to dig. You don't have to, amend the soil. They're actually fine. Just throw some soil on top of it, create a mound, add some of your rock. So you can see I've used one of the planter pots. You can see cocoa beans in the way of the video. And there's the rock that I've created along there to help support that mound. And then just put the aeoniums in here. They need to be cleaned out a little bit, but overall they're doing just fine. And then I do have the names of these. They have their little They're little signs. I do need to switch them. So this one's Voodoo, for example. This one is Madeira Rose. So you can see that, Madeira Rose. So I do have the names in here, but I need to come through and start to clean this out a little bit because they've got some dead leaves. But overall, that's what it looks like. This little corner of the garden. So again, I'm just going to be working on cleaning this thing up today and just creating something that looks a little cuter. So I'm going to follow the normal steps that I do. I'm going to pull all the plants out, and then I am going to add in some more soil so I get some of that mounding effect. And then from there, probably put the rock on top, and then I'll probably put most of these back rather than with the roots. I'll probably just use cuttings, put the cube pieces back in as cuttings, and make something that looks a little better than what I've got here. Okay, so here we are. I have pulled all of the plant material out, so you can see the soil's actually really dry. I was kind of surprised about that because it just watered. And the other thing is the soils, it's the best way I can describe it is like tired. I don't know how else to describe it, but after you've been doing gardening for a while, you can kind of smell when soil smells like it doesn't have nutrients in it. It's the only way I can describe it. And so I know it's time to add in some more soil. Definitely, these plants will really benefit from it. A couple of these things, they're just too rooted in, so trying to pull them out. So like this jade seems to be happy, so I'm just going to leave it alone, and it's actually okay because it's at the back anyway. Also this one, they're a little too rooted, and so if I pull them out, they're not going to do well, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave them in there. And then you can see I left some of the trailers that are okay, that look okay, so I've left those. So like I've told you in previous videos, so when you go to pull the plants out, this time I didn't actually cut off the icky ends just so that you can kind of see, but again, what you're doing is you're grouping the plants together, and some of it's hidden by my little saucer there. I'll show you in a second what I'm doing with that. But you group the plants together as much as possible. You can do it by texture, you can do it by how they grow. So this, for example, is a bunch of the ones that on the right there, those are the kind that are trailers. And then I have some aloes right there, so we'll move those towards the front so they get more light. They weren't growing very well. Here's some aeoniums, a cute cocoa bean. So here's some aeoniums along here. And so all I'm doing again is I'm just grouping the plants together because it makes it easier when I'm putting it back together. And I don't have a lot from a plant perspective, but I have all of this that I can pull from. so not a problem. So anyway, you can see I had some driftwood that was embedded in there, and this is just a bunch of the gunk that I pulled out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that out to the street. In San Jose, we just put our yard clippings on the street, and gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'm gonna start pulling in some soil. So I had soil and rock delivered because, as I mentioned previously, I'm gonna start doing some bigger projects. So there's actually soil and Cali Gold sitting in my driveway right now, which is really cool. So I can just pull the soil and start dumping some of it in here so that I can create some mounds. I can fill this up a little bit higher. Like I said, these plants that are already in here, they're going to benefit from having some renewed soil because this doesn't, it's not good. I can tell. That's why the growth was poor. And then I'll start building the design. Okay, so here we are. I've added a bunch of the soil. Remarkably heavier than I remember, so if I'm breathing hard, that's why. It's been a while since I did digging in a mound of soil like that. I'm going to actually show you so you can see the elevation, the height elevation, so it's a little easier when it's in a raised bed like this. So you can see there's kind of mounds going across. Again, because it's raised up, it's got great drainage, so I'm not worried about adding anything like perlite or additional rock or anything like that. It'll be fine. And you can see that the soil, darker in color, looks healthier, so this is going to be good for these plants. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on adding rock. on here because I plan on just, for the most part, putting cuttings in. So that will be the next step. All right, here's the garden bed now. This little raised bed with all of the rock on top. You can see I started adding in some of my aeonium collection. So this one's called pomegranate. Super beautiful. And it's kind of a trailer, which is really cool. So I thought it'd be neat if I stuck it off the edge there. Just kind of let it do its thing. But you can see it gets, pretty leggy and long. So I thought that would be neat if it kind of trailed over that edge. So I tipped it a little bit. And you can see all I'm doing, again, with this soil, it's going to help with a couple things, right? It's going to hold soil retention. It's going to keep that mound in place. It's going to hold moisture in so the soil doesn't dry out. And when I go to put the cuttings in, it's going to help. It's just like arranging, any flowers, right, in a vase. You're just going to put something in the base so that you can poke it into, and so that's what the rock is helping with. And this little guy right here is a crest that my friend Sarah gave me, which is super cute. So I'm going to give it kind of that place of honor in the middle. Thought that would be cool. She's a good friend of mine, so that would be beautiful to add that in. Okay, so now I'm just gonna start adding plants, and again, this is probably gonna end up being more of a tapestry. I can kind of feel it, like that's how I feel today. I want to make more of a tapestry out of this. So I'm just gonna start taking some of the pieces that I pulled out that I wanted to keep, start placing them in here. It'll look pretty full once it's in, but that's the next step. And here's the final product. See, so I've added some of the trailing plants. Those will fill in really quickly, especially that Thonacapensis. So that's that purple that you're seeing right there. Thonacapensis. It's somewhat invasive, so it will grow very quickly. Weirdly, this is it, but not sun stressed. So this is a sun stressed version, and this is a non-sun stressed version. So when you see it and it looks slightly different, you can always tell. In fact, I've got one right here that you can see that's pretty sun stressed. So that's what they look like when they are sun stressed. But just put the trailing plants along the edges. I did move my tabiflorum right here. Felt like where it was before, it was just kind of getting buried underneath some of the other aeonium. So I think it will actually do better here. And again, detail matters, right? So you want to make sure you're tucking your rock up underneath, so you don't want to get that rot. So it's a lot of lifting the plants up, making sure that you're getting rock underneath so that you're taking care of them, and then making sure that they're placed. Most of these are cuttings, so you can see how that rock is helping to hold them up. Added some of the red aeonium in here so that it would look really pretty. I don't like it when it's too green and kind of matchy, so, and you can see I'm just using different textures, different colors on the design. I'm checking it from all angles so that no matter which way you're looking at it, it looks really pretty. See in the corner, used a lot of these aeoniums just to fill in this little back area. So again, I didn't move that jade, and all I'm doing there is I'm just helping to fill that in so it looks a little better. Took some of those out here to the edge, so use them as fillers again. Those are really cool little aeoniums. Wish I could remember the name, but they kind of push in just like buttons. It's kind of cool. Put my black ribbon through, cut down some of the legginess for some of the aeoniums I had at the beginning of the video, and just poked them in. So they're just cuttings. And that's my aeonium crest from my friend Sarah. A cut down some of those other aeoniums and poke them in. Put one of the aloes over here. Wasn't getting enough sunlight towards the back of the bed, that big mess that I had at the beginning of the video, so it will do a lot better now that it's sitting out here. And then use some of these plants just as little fillers. Fill in this little area towards the back. More of the aeoniums again, and you can see I have this one cute little pot. Let me see if I can go around the other direction so you can see it a little better here. That's called Irish Bouquet. That's an aeonium, so I tucked that little pot in. Seems to be happy in that pot, so I'm just going to leave it alone. Keep it inside there. But from this angle, it'll not look the greatest, so tucked in a couple little plants. I may add a little bit more in there just to cover the base of that pot. But the point being that the detail matters, so keep an eye on that. There you go. So a little bit of fun for this afternoon. Building out little design. Like I said, it was driving me crazy. I walk by this is where my gate is, so I walk by this all the time, and it just really needed to be upgraded to have a pretty design in here. These plants will all do very well because this is a shadier part of the yard. I also have shade cloth over the pergola that's here, so even when the sun comes in the afternoon, it won't actually hurt these plants. And I'll probably pop a little fertilizer over the top just to help them out a little bit, but it's not necessary. I just usually put some, little granules on top just to kind of help them out, but you don't have to do that. The plants will do just fine without it. They'll actually grow just slightly slower if you don't put that kind of stuff in, but I like them to color up and do their best, and so I'll probably just add a little bit in there just to give them a little bit of help. And then before I go, I'll show you a little more closer up of that crest, aeonium crest, so that will get fairly large. These can get, I've seen big ones that are like 18 inches across, so over time it'll grow bigger. So there you go. So as usual, if you like this content, if this was helpful for you, please like and subscribe. Send me any of your comments, any of your questions. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much.